performance. We absolutely loved it. And you have so much going on right now. You have your 20th anniversary, and in tandem with that, we're getting some new music and old favorites as part of XX, a new compilation that comes out August 5th. Can you tell us a little bit about this and what can we expect on it?
You covered most of it. August 5th, it comes out. It's not so much a greatest hits, but more a celebration of our first 20 years. We started off playing first in an 8th grade talent show, then our high school cafeteria, then our college campus, and so on and so forth. And through the years, we've had so many fun times. And along that way, we would make records to keep track of those times so one day we could look back and celebrate. We're at that moment now where we've done our first 20. We like to talk about the things we've done. We re-recorded some songs so they had a newer feel. Shattered, Love and Memories, This Town has a Heaven remix available later on for everybody. And 2 new songs that give you a glimpse of where we're at right now. The fact we're celebrating 20 years doesn't mean that we're not making music right now. Right. So that's kind of where this album is. It's at the crossroads of then and now, and I really like it. I love the opportunity to have a platform to present 2 new songs with. So it's been a great project. Jerry really spearheaded the entire thing. I have to give him credit for creating this album. I mean, he did most of it, so I'm just speaking for him, but I'll let him finish.
Jerry, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to kind of cull through this and create this?
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun digging through 20 years worth of material, going back to the stuff that the band recorded when it was 15, 16-year-olds in a studio with a couple bucks taking a swing at it, and seeing really the evolution of that all the way till today, where we filmed a docuseries called Evolution of a Song, and it was, if you had just a couple songs to write or one song to write, let's take you from the very beginning of it when it was just a thought in a brain and document the whole experience of it. So it was a lot of fun digging into the past, bringing it all up, deciding what should be on it, what should be a live cut, what should be a studio cut, what should be re-recorded and done new, and then, like Mark said, where are we going in the future as well? So we did I Go Through and Follow Me, Follow You as 2 new tunes, and we're unbelievably proud of those.
I love I Go Through. Can you talk a little bit about that song and the origin of it and what it means?
Sure. I Go Through was born out of a true moment. I mean, we arrived at our friend Nathan Chapman's house in Nashville to write a song. We wanted to have some cameras there. Maybe we'd get something. Who knows, And we sat down with Nathan, and within an hour and a half, we filmed and developed a song from its very first thought, the lick on the guitar that inspired the lyric that then built into the song. By the end of that hour and a half, we'd finished this song, and that night we performed it. And it's a song that's written about, I think, everything we can all relate to. It's that we need to move forward. I looked at my kids. I realized that I have now one responsibility, and that is to progress, that is to grow, evolve. I mean, I need to set a good example for these kids so they know not to stand still. Because when you stand still, bad things happen, right? And I think that right now, we're in a situation where we're in a standstill and bad things happen. The song is supposed to represent a movement forward. The song is supposed to represent our movement forward as a group. But it's grown to be so much more. So I think one moment you're writing a song about what you think is your kid, but what you're really talking about is your life and your experience. And in and of itself, that relates to everyone. So we really were able to get something on film for Evolution of a Song on Quello that just really is pure.
We've seen a lot of music documentaries documenting the process of making the album, the recording process. But this is interesting because it's really taking us back into the writing. Was it nerve-wracking to have the camera there while you're actually trying to write a song?
I think Elvis Costello recently was interviewed, and he said, he was asked the same question. He said, well, sometimes the cameras, you don't even feel them or see them. Sometimes they suck the magic right out of the room. We got very lucky. I don't personally love being on camera, being documented, working on my stuff. But when you get it, you get it. So it's worth the risk, right, of being vulnerable, right? You'll really get some honest things. So For me, it was a joy. It's not something I would do every time I wrote a song. I probably won't do it again. But we were able to capture exactly what we set out to get, which I think is like pitching a perfect game. We got lucky.
Do you feel pressure to, have a radio hit or a hit on just a hit on the radio, for example, after all these years?
I think that's an interesting question because I don't feel a pressure from here to have a hit. I don't feel a pressure from the audience to have a hit. I feel a pressure from a business standpoint to make sure that we continually have a presence in the world so that we can continually tour and play our music. So it's a means to an end, in other words, right? So we like to play live music. That's what we like to do. That's what we started to do. When we get a song that catches, we feel extremely lucky because then we get to go out and tour on that for year after year. So it's all pointing to the same place. It's all going to the same place, that tour bus. How can we get out there and play shows and be with the people? That's what we want. And you have to have songs that sometimes carry you to that next show, right? And we realize that, and we love it.
Right, so then you have something new to play and to perform for all the fans. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
20 years, I loved how you were saying, high school, cafeterias and all that kind of stuff. Can you take me back to that time when you first started out? You were mentioning earlier about, not being able to tune your guitar as professionally as you are now, able to now. Can you talk a little bit about that to where you are today and to what you owe your success, really?
Sure. I mean, I'll start in the beginning, and then I'll lead right into Jerry, because I think what we began doing was playing at any place. We would play in the basement. We play in people's backyards. We play at barbecues. We play everywhere. We ended up at school. Jerry was one of the first people I met at orientation in college, and he played some guitar. He had some songs. He was in a couple bands. He did a lot of things, but he said, "Hey, man, let me help you all go to your next show. Let me just help move some stuff around. Travel with you. I'll play a song or two on saxophone." Then we recorded an album. We played a couple songs. It grew from there, and then we said, "Jerry, you're in the band. Like, this is great, And that's where Jerry could pick up the story.
Yeah, I was the guy tuning the guitars loudly on stage in front of everybody when we couldn't dial it in. But it was really, I attribute it to, one, good songwriting. If people didn't connect with what he's talking about, I wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be here right now. So that's certainly a very important part of it. The other part is the grind. We say yes a hell of a lot of times, and we go out there and we grind it out. And it's kind of funny. It's not something you really think about when you're 5 years old or 10 years old and you want to grow up and be a rock star. But this is a grind of a business, and you got to get out there and have at it, And we paid our dues. We got out on the road. We left school in 2001. We didn't come home for another couple of years, and that really catapulted us to a place where we were playing really big venues like MSG, which I think is probably your first show with us, right?
Yeah, one of the first, yep.
Yeah. So it was, it carries it with us today. We're here today because I got 2 hours of sleep, and we went to the Today Show at 5 in the morning, and we're here, thankfully, talking with you guys today.
Yeah, in the evening. It's dark. It's a thunderstorm outside. So,
Yeah.
For you, being Madison Square Garden as one of your first shows with the band, what was that like? Gosh.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I mean, the very first show was the Stories of a Stranger record release show, and it was this big hoo-ha, and all these guests, artists, and it was a big celebration and a party, and I was definitely overwhelmed at the beginning. Jerry sent me 8 CDs, and he's like, "All right, listen to these." And I was like, how am I going to learn all this music? And it was actually probably 5 or 6 years in where I felt like, all right, I pretty much know all the songs. And then, nope, there would be a set list, and there would be a song. I'm like, what is this song? I've never heard of this song. And I have to go and listen on the bus and try and learn it, and which is exciting for me.
It's in G. It'll be fine.
Yeah, just G, and there's
Figure
a
it
couple
out.
changes in
He's
there.
being modest. I mean, we would throw 20 songs at him right before the show.
Yeah.
Or like we'd be doing a big, like the Garden, and we'd say, "Here's a bunch of songs, learn them." And then if you don't learn them correctly, we're gonna be pissed off.
Yeah, there was a...
It was like but he was so professional. I mean, when we had the audition, he walked in, he played. I was like, all right, I guess I have to see one other person just to make this kind of fair. And I called you like right away. I was like, I think you pretty much got the job. You ready to go on the road for like 10 years? And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Michael Paris is absolutely the glue. You know, he makes it all work.
Yeah, I try to be the connective tissue, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you're succeeding at that for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate
Do you have any fun touring rituals when you're out on the road? Because you are on the road quite a bit.
We do. I mean, to be honest with you, we treat this and we act and we have fun like we're at summer camp. I mean, you can't take it so seriously because you're in a band. And that's it. And if you're sitting there complaining about, I have to go do another show, it's ridiculous. We really embrace that. We get to do everything. We get to go do the shows. We get to travel. So we're in there, even when it's hard.
We find the fun in the day. Like we were playing minor league baseball park a couple days ago, and we were taking batting practice in the cages and stuff, and we were terrible at it, but it was fun as hell.
Yeah, you just make it work, right? But now, you have families and everything now, so that makes it a little bit different. How does that change the game a bit?
To be honest with you, when we started having families, we may have started to be too precious and too serious and do all these things, and you realize that, once again, you're lucky to be doing it, and your family then, when you believe it, and you really follow through with enjoying your job and giving it all, people around you will support you. If you complain and moan about and most things, why should they support you? Luckily, we have units at our houses that are on this with us. I mean, they're in the band. Our wives, we've known them forever. They might as well be in the band. You know, we discuss all our business with them. It's a team effort, no matter what. So when we had families, we then had more band members. It became more fun. It was like we really just all try to enjoy it. It's hard sometimes and everything, but it could be a lot harder. So we're all in on it together.
Plus, with technology today, it's a little easier to kind of stay in touch with FaceTime and everything. I feel like that's a little easier. So we're hearing 2 new songs on XX. Are you thinking about another full-length album yet?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I think we're going to go right back into the studio. We're going to go on tour and then go right back in the studio as a band, sit in a room, and write 10 new songs and finish them and record them and put it out. We're not going to go through the process of a year of demoing and all these things. We want to go in and write a band album, record a band album, and put out a band album. And we plan on doing that ASAP. I'm talking like be ready for it as soon as we're done talking about this one.
Nice. All right. We can't wait for it. But what's that like? What's that process like? Are you at home writing some lyrics and you bring it to the band, or you guys are all in this? Like, is it going to change this time around?
Well, we're all constantly working on songs. I mean, Jerry's always writing and producing songs. Yeah. Michael's always writing and producing music for his solo stuff, for O.A.R, for his show, his TV show. I mean, a lot of times that's our job, is to write songs. But in this case, we'll all have our demos, our ideas. We'll bring them to the room, and that room will decide what happens next. And it'll be a group effort. And then at the end of that, if we don't have what we need, then we'll try another way of doing it. But it changes with every song. You can ask any songwriter. It's different every time. It comes from different places. If we knew where they came from, we would be sitting outside, waiting with a net, to get them. So,
do you ever get writer's block?
I had writer's block for a couple years, I felt like, and I got this book called The Artist's Way.
Oh, yes.
Which Billy Corgan actually recommended to me, and that was a name drop only because I only talked to him once. And I feel like I need to keep that alive in case he calls me back ever. He recommended that one. It cleared me right up. I felt awesome, so then I would go and recommend it to someone else. But recently, no.
No, it's good. How can you talk a little bit about how your sound has evolved over the years, over this course of the 20 years?
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the band was, 14 years old at best when it started. It was 8th grade, somewhere around there. So we were babies, we were kids, you know what I mean? So we progressed through all of this. All of it happened, I came in a little later. The boys were together in high school in Rockville, Maryland, came to Ohio State in 97. That's where I met Mark and the rest of the guys. But I've never seen O.A.R. not play to a big crowd of people. You know what I mean? O.A.R.'s never played to 5 people, like the guitar player's girlfriend and the bartender. That's never really happened. So there was always a swell of people and enjoying the live thing and such. And then when we were in college, it grew at a very rapid pace. Probably it grew past and beyond what we were really capable of handling at the time. But we had this blind naivete of the whole thing going, okay, let's go. Here we go. We're going to go on tour with all this. So it took a while for us to catch up, and it took us really just being at home, woodshedding, Mark sitting there, pen to paper, becoming a better writer, me grinding, shedding it out, becoming better at our instruments, better at our craft. We've been at this for over 20 years now, and we consider that a blessing and a gift, and we owe it to ourselves and our audience to get better at what we do every time we do it. So we work at it. I go home, I wake up, I'm up at 7, I'm woodshedding at 9 o'clock in the morning till, and then in the afternoons I'm working on the business side of stuff. So it's like all you folks going to work and stuff, we get up, we go to work, man, and that's an important element of why we're still here.
What do you want your fans to take away from your shows?
I mean, I personally always, for me, shows are therapeutic. So if I didn't have shows, I don't know what I would be like. I mean, it would be rough. I use those 2 hours to get it all out. I'm up there and I'm going through it with everybody else. What I would like the audience to do is have no hang-ups and just go through their process. What we really strive for is that when people leave the concert, they feel better than when they got there. That's our job. When we open for somebody, it's our job to warm up the crowd for that group. When it's our show, it's our job to give people their money's worth so that they go home and they feel like, you know what, that was a good night out. We don't phone it in because that's offensive to the folks who got a sitter that night and wanted to go out and have fun and have some drinks, What we want from our audience is to have fun, feel good, smile, enjoy it. Even if that means they don't like this song, they like that song. They want to be, it's awesome, it's great, let's just have fun, And that's what we expect, and I don't ask anyone to do that, but we work at it to keep them moving. You're a master of ceremonies, that's your job.
Definitely. Before we get some audience Q&A, I just want to ask you some questions off the music topic, or kind of related. We'll start with you. Your biggest musical inspiration?
Ooh, there's so many, but being a piano player and figuring out that I could sing and play at the same time, it was definitely, Billy Joel, Elton John,
Nice.
Bruce Hornsby, those guys. They were big inspirations for me early on when I was a little kid.
What about you?
I would have to say my Uncle Steve, who is just about 10 years older than me. So he wasn't, growing up, he wasn't, there was a connection there. I thought he was just a little, wasn't that big of an age gap. And I remember I was probably 5, and he played me Van Halen. Played me Eruption by Van Halen. I just remember going, play it again. And that was my response, is let me hear it again. So that sparked it for me, and I still love Van Halen today, so I guess it still works.
For me, it was Crowded House, the Finn brothers. Their self-titled album, Crowded House, was on repeat for years. I mean, the songs. And Pearl Jam was a huge, I wanted to, Ed Vedder, that was it for me. That's who I wanted to be. And then I realized that I'm not him, I'm me. But he gave me the courage to go and try it in 8th grade. That's the first song we played, Porch. And so he was a huge inspiration, Crowded House for their songs, yeah.
Love it. What about favorite movie? Do you have one of your favorite films of all time?
I mean, Star Wars. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm a sci-fi fantasy freak, so that changed my life, seeing that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I live my life by all the Rocky movies except for number 6. I kind of forget that one.
And what about the latest one? Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm blanking on the name of it right now.
Creed. Right?
Creed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, I'm not going to ruin anything for everybody if you didn't see it, but I got a little misty. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I'd say Goonies, Stand By Me.
So good.
Had a huge impact on my life. The list goes on and on. The Shining was an amazing movie.
All classics. Okay, what about one of your favorite TV shows on television right now, or Netflix, or?
Well, I was late to the game, but I'm doing Game of Thrones right now. I'm on season 4, episode 6. Yeah, it's awesome. I know. It took me a while to get on board, but yeah, that's what I'm in.
I just burned through a couple episodes of Ray Donovan last night, and it bummed me the hell out. To be honest with you, I gotta find something a little more uplifting.
For me, I'm addicted to watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I watch them over and over. I've seen every episode, every season. It's constantly on. It drives my wife insane. I just listen to it in my pocket. I don't even watch it. I just think they're hilarious. And House of Cards, you know, sadly, I'm pretty comfortable with most of his policy. It's like, I'm like, I can see that. Not all of it, but some of it, you know.
You're on board. Well, thanks, guys. Love to get some questions from the crowd here, so let's take it away.
How's it going, guys?
Good to see you.
I'm Dave. Big fan of you guys. I think I've seen you over 30 times. So, yeah.
It's a big number. Thank
Big
you.
number.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
I have 2 questions. So I know you asked kind of who they were inspired by, but I think my question is, what artists today do you guys would you want to play with? Who are you kind of most influenced by that's kind of current now that you would be inspired to play with?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's different for each of us. I'll go down the line. For me, whenever I see Bruno Mars, I think this guy's, you know, incredibly talented. I mean, you can, you know, from where I'm sitting, and I watch them dance and do their thing, I am completely floored. I say, I wish I could do that. That's what I want to do, you know. It's not my style in some ways, but in other ways, it's exactly what I want to be working with. So Bruno, I'd love to work with him.
I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and 21 Pilots is a band that I got to see come out of Columbus, Ohio, and grow from something very small into something that, you know, they put out another record that may be the biggest band in the world. So, you know, those guys, they do it right. They really do. They got great writing, tap into something that people really can connect with, and that live show is something. So, a big fan of those guys.
I mean, for me, Sarah Bareilles is like, it blows me away. Vocally, writing, piano playing, like I think she's one of the most talented artists right now, for me. Whether it's male or female, I just love her.
So talented.
Yeah.
Awesome. And one more quick question. So I became a fan forever ago listening to kind of like your original stuff. So how do you find the balance between, you know, like the City on Downs, the Coal Miners, that kind of older, kind of original O.A.R. sound with the new stuff? I know you talked about the band evolving, and I personally love all of it. I think it's great. I appreciate the evolution, but I know there's a lot of fans that say, oh, we don't like this new stuff. We love the older kind of reggae, rock, kind of jam bandy sound.
Sure.
So how do you kind of balance that, and what do you say to fans that are not into evolution?
Got it. So the here's what it is, right? So this is what it is, and everyone, this is what it is. Well, you're growing up with us musically. When we're putting out our first records, we're 16, 17, learning how to play new chords, writing new songs with new chords. The reason why it was off beat, I couldn't play the other way. I didn't know how to work it. I didn't know how to play my guitar properly. Eventually, we had a drummer, and we'd sit there and play off each other in the basement, and we'd develop a sound that we were growing. We were getting better, and we had a guitar player, a bass player. Then we got 5 guys and 6 guys. As we were growing and getting better songwriting, better playing, it doesn't say our original music is not good. It's just you're literally listening to us grow. A lot of bands have done a lot of things prior to putting out their first album. The first thing we did was put out an album. So I bought a guitar, I put out an album. I sold it, and I learned how to play guitar in the studio, basically, right? So as you're following us along, you may say, wow, they really deviated from this, but where we were coming from, we were just getting better, and we were working. So not everyone's gonna like you. You can't please everybody all the time. We're just growing. You know, there's a very good chance I sit in a room with these 3 guys, 2 other guys, and we start playing songs in a couple months, and they sound exactly like the first songs, but I can't sit here and try and predict and pretend. We're not that kind of artists. We're a band. So we're going to grow. it is what it is. I know that's not like a nice answer, but that's what we want from artists. When I see somebody, I want them to be honest with me. I want to relate to them. I don't want to get some corny version of what they think I'll like.
I think we have one more question in the crowd.
Hey guys, you mentioned, Jerry specifically mentioned that by the time he joined the group, O.A.R. was playing just these massive shows, these big venues. I've seen you guys at Citi Field and MSG and big places in Ohio. What was it like performing for 30 people today? Is it a different energy? Is it a different vibe? Different stuff going through your heads? Just interested to see how you guys felt about that.
My day always ends with people clapping for me when I go to work. And so we certainly don't take that for granted. Play every show like it's our last. It's the way we do it. We take a swing at it. And so whether it's in front of you folks for 30 people or, add a couple more zeros to that, the energy back may be a little bit different, but from the stage on out, we try to swing at it the same way.
Great. Well, lots of touring to come this year. New album out in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks, August 5th, XX. Congrats on your 20th anniversary.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in today, O.A.R.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate that. Thank you.